How's it going, my beautiful weebs? Welcome back to Fraud on the Telly. Today, once again, we're talking about anime, but not just any anime. Today, we're talking about Vinland Saga Season 2. More specifically on how Episode 1 of Vinland Saga Season 2 entire purpose is to introduce a brand new character known as Einar. You see, unless you've been living under a rock, you would know about Vinland Saga, one of the hottest new animes that have come out over the last few years, a historical fiction anime about a certain Viking named Thorfinn and his quest for revenge. One of the things that I think is super interesting about Vinland Saga is the fact that Season 1 is basically just a setup arc. It's kind of a prequel arc, a setup for the eventual story to be told in Season 2 and beyond of Vinland Saga. See, the funny thing about Season 2, Episode 1 of Vinland Saga is that Thorfinn, the main character of the entire series, only makes one appearance in this episode for a grand total of, like, I don't know, 30 seconds? No, you see, the entire purpose of this episode is to introduce a character, a new character, known as Einar, and to ensure that the audience will buy in. You see, this is kind of a risky move in a way from Vinland Saga. Obviously, the manga was written long before this anime has come out. But in a sense, to do something like this, where you completely abandon your main protagonist in kind of the debut of the second iteration of your series, in order to introduce a new character who will also be integral to the story, well, it just takes a bit of gumption. And personally, I think they did it amazingly. You see, audience buy-in is one of the most important things to achieve in any kind of media, whether you're a writer, an author, a producer, a YouTuber even. And when you introduce some kind of a story, whether it be a character, a grand story arc, a manga, what have you, it could be the best story ever. It could have some of the best characters ever. But if your audience doesn't have buy-in, if they don't have any reason to care, no one's gonna watch it. Combine this with the fact that, for whatever reasons, humans like us are, well, we don't really like change that much, do we? And when a show like Vinland Saga that experienced a lot of success in its Season 1, for some reason suddenly doesn't have their main character showing up really at all in the first episode of Season 2, well, that's what we call a bold move, Cotton. You see, like we said at the very beginning, the entire purpose of Season 2, Episode 1 of Vinland Saga is to introduce and have audience buy-in for this new character, Einar. Einar is a farmer from somewhere in kind of northern England. Remember that Vinland Saga takes place around 1000 AD. At this time, England, the continent, the island, has become a unified kingdom. Over the last hundreds of years, they've been constantly harried and harassed by the many Viking nations around them, specifically Denmark, where a lot of our characters and our story takes place. Einar is a young man living a happy life with his mother and his sister in this very beautiful little farmland hamlet somewhere in northern England. We learn that Einar has kind of aspirations of being a warrior, as he wants to protect his village like his father did. We learn that his father died protecting their village at one point from Viking raiders, but his mother really highly dissuades him from living that warrior life, which is mighty ironic, as the next day, the village is set upon by Viking raiders. The family attempts to run, the mother being struck with an arrow. Einar, though, stands completely stunned seeing his mother wounded before him. She tells him to run, to take his sister and go live, but ultimately Einar stands there helplessly as the raiders grab his sister stabbing one of them in the back. He watches as she is brutally cut down, murdered before him. Einar is then taken aboard a boat where he is to be sold into slavery, where he witnesses another brutal act of man as one of the slavers aboards the boat brutally throws a woman overboard, a woman who was sick, who wouldn't be worth any money to him. We are then, in classic Vinland Saga fashion, given a quote in a little kind of cut scene in the middle here. They like to give these kind of deep, inspiring quotes that generally have some kind of greater knowledge or relation to whatever is happening in the story. I'm going to read this quote for you right now. "A fir on a barren land withers with neither bark nor leaf. So too does the man loved by none. Why should he live a long life?" To me, the tree is a metaphor for Einar here, as his life has become barren, as it is now one empty of love. Now, the idea then is, what is the purpose of Einar's life if he has nothing to live for, if he has no love in his life? This then speculates that maybe in the future he will find some love, something to live for, or maybe it's the opposite, and Einar will delve into a fate that is destined for only one that does not have love. Back to the story, it's Einar is taken to the shores of Denmark, where he is attempted to be sold into slavery. He tries to make a run for it, but is ultimately found, whipped, and lashed, as there really wasn't anything that he could do here. He has been taken far away from his home. He has no loved ones. No one is looking for him. No one is going to come and save him. His lot in life is relatively pretty hopeless at this point, as the slaver tells the slaves, him specifically, to find a master in which you can do good work and let that be your purpose in life. It almost seems as if Einar is kind of broken as a human in this sense, to when we are suddenly surprised to be reintroduced to our first reoccurring character, Leif Erikson, who we learn is out looking for Thorfinn. If we remember what happened at the end of Season 1 of Vinland Saga, Thorfinn was taken and sold into slavery, where we will see him later on in this episode, and it seems that his family, Leif Erikson, is looking to try and buy him. This is important though, because now Einar learns about Thorfinn, he learns his description, and he learns that one of his family members is trying to find him to buy him back. Einar is ultimately bought by a man named Kettle, a relatively nice man, I guess all things said, compared to the people that we've seen so far in this episode, who asks Einar if he'd like to come work on his farm for him. This is the first time in a bit in our episode that Einar is once again kind of filled with life, as farming was the thing that really seemed to be his main purpose in life. Einar is taken to this farm, where he is introduced to one of this man's other farm hands, a wiry, muscly, little Danish man named Thorfinn. And our episode ends. Yep, that's right, through the entirety of Season 2, Episode 1 of Vinland Saga, Thorfinn makes really that one brief appearance, and that's it. Now, this is to set us up again for the future of Season 2, and to make us as an audience care about Einar. And they do this in a classic Vinland Saga fashion by brutally beating your emotions into the ground with a stick. In many ways, Vinland Saga feels like the kind of modern interpretation of Berserk, and I mean this mainly in how it makes me feel, and how it uses kind of intense violence and dark themes to tell a very emotional story, a very real human story. I wanted to make this video because I thought that what they did here in this first episode of Season 2 of Vinland Saga was really, frankly, really cool. A lot of other animes and a lot of other stories wouldn't take this risk, because it is kind of a risk, because there is a world where it doesn't have a good reaction. But the way that Vinland Saga tells stories, it really is hard not to care about these characters. I mean, you'd kind of have to be a bit of a psychopath to not have some kind of emotional reaction and attachment to Einar after watching that episode. Attack on Titan does something similar in kind of the beginning of the first episode of Attack on Titan. This kind of emotional shock value isn't exactly a new thing, but I really enjoy how Vinland Saga does it, not to mention the absolutely insane art that Vinland Saga always seems to have. Ultimately, I'm excited to see what the future holds between Einar and Thorfinn, as just what the fuck has Thorfinn been up to. You can see that there's been a time skip between Season 1 and 2 by at least a year or two, if I remember correctly, and Thorfinn seems to have broken a bit as a human. Well, at least that's what it seems, but I guess we're gonna have to wait until next time to see. Let me know in the comments down below, guys, what you thought of Season 2, Episode 1 of Vinland Saga and this introduction of Einar. Vinland Saga really does know how to introduce a character, really like no other anime I think I've ever seen. As always, if you enjoyed the video, learned something new, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to check out some of our other anime content. And as always, I hope to see you in the next one. Stay safe out there, guys. Until next time, peace, love, adu.
It was like 05, got my license to drive. Picked you up in my pop's car, went for a ride. Couldn't no one tell us nothing. That night was ours. All the stars aligned and you were so damn fine. Yeah, it was young love, young hearts were so pure. We trust love is so hard to endure.